We're going to move on to the next speaker in our content. That's Biconomy. Chirag, I think, is here. You here?
Yeah.
You are. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you well. Hi,
Perfect.
John.
Well, the show is all yours, so we look forward to hearing from you, and take it away.
All right. First of all, thank you, eTenver, for having me for this talk and everyone else for joining. My name is Chirag Titia. I have been working with Biconomy, and I started with blockchain when like DeFi was getting started with like some of the peer-to-peer lending applications or the auction marketplaces. So today, mainly we are going to talk about the usability and how to improve the experiences of Web3 applications. So let's just get started. Present suite. All right. So the blockchain has been like the DeFi space has seen a rapid growth in last 2 years. So here is some context about like the volumes and there are like multiple use cases or the protocols coming up, be it like margin trading or alternative savings, decentralized lending, gaming, etc. So for all of these, I think like in my belief, for blockchain or the crypto applications to go into a next rapid growth stage, we need scalability, usability, and interoperability. So mainly focus on the interactions with these applications. Yeah, so like you could pretty much build up anything with the, you can combine like several protocols in DeFi and use the composability and make a really good UI and the user experience. But the way the users are going to interact with it, it still involves like a lot of steps and some friction. So it is very important to simplify all of these complexities in interacting with an DeFi protocol or a decentralized application. And the major issues are, so I'm going to talk about the problems with usability. Like in the beginning, you would like, need to remember your whole Ethereum address, and you're sending this address to someone. The wallet logins are complicated, and you need to have a certain extension in your browser. And, this is about like, I used to try to figure out like how do we get this particular application into mobile and how the interaction would go like. So that's one problem which is sort of like solved, like about the addresses, which is solved with the growth of Ethereum name service, where you just like sort of put up your name and the transaction is like linked with basically it's linked with your address and the transaction goes through. So apart from that, the gas is a big problem. So the gas prices are varying, and you would like, for example, like if you set the gas price very high, then you would, end up like overpaying. Your transaction would go through, or if you set this to a lower value, then you might, end up like getting your transaction getting stuck. So these are the challenges. Like some protocols have setting deadlines, and how do you figure out like exact, what price you should be putting in. So these are the major issues with the gas prices when sending out the transactions. Meta transactions are a way to solve that, where you have a certain entity called a relayer which pays on your user's behalf or on your behalf, and the transaction is basically like you sign a message, and then this signed message is like basically relayed to the dApp. There are other issues with like pending and stuck transactions, and with the transaction times getting too high, or there are like certain complexities when you are doing yourself as a non-crypto savvy user, where you go to MetaMask and see certain settings, or any other wallet, you see certain settings like what is the gas limit should I put, and what are the other settings so that this transaction saves me money and it goes faster. So these are the problems, like it boils down to transaction. So that's why the topic of this talk would be like simplifying, the transaction experience so that you or your users can have superior UX. Uh, there are certain other interactions, like in terms of scalability. Layer 2 is here. There are several layer 2 solutions, but and it actually a lot cheaper and faster when you are interacting on layer 2. But when you want to like move your funds back to layer 1, it's a big process and hassle for it could go up to a certain number of days. So these are like some of the problems which have been in the usability space. This sort of shows that you consider like DeFi interaction as a highway. You are like interacting with different protocols, seed farming, savings, etc. And with like each stage, you need to like stop at this checkpost to pay the gas fees, and it adds certain number of steps when you are interacting with the dApp. So these includes the friction, and there are some solutions out there. So basically the goal would be like how do we make these interactions on web3 just like web2. So you compare this with the web2 stack and try to have like a better login solution for your users, which or better managing the wallet solution without like being as a custodian. So these are the challenges, and how do we like transit from web 2 to web 3 with the similar experience. And yeah, this would be the goal, like how do you capture the next billion for your dApp. Say you are a developer, or you are working on a certain protocol, or you are building something on top of it. So how the user onboarding can be improved. And also there are certain challenges with having to pay ETH, or like buying the ETH first. Let's say my employer has transferred me some tokens, and I need to transfer these tokens, and I do not know about ETH. So I need to like make this entire round trip, go to an exchange, do the KYC and buy ETH, and then I'm going to spend as those ETH as a gas fees for a particular transaction. So it's about like providing different options while reducing the steps for all of these interactions with the different protocols. And there are some solutions out there which so this would be like guideline or some inspiration from like different solutions which are out there right now in terms of wallets, in terms of like improving the transaction experience. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more on the Biconomy side later on. So for example, like you have Wallet Connect or Fortmetting, which solves the problem of like interacting easily with your mobile phones, where you sort of just like scan a QR code and then you're logged in, or you click on a link and it is sort of a passwordless login to the dApp, and then you can do the transactions basically. So these solutions can be provided more on the wallet side. And meta transaction is an idea where, like I explained, it basically allows your users to, it allows you to sponsor gas for your users. So the transaction, so this gas paying step can be removed from the entire experience. This makes a lot of sense when, like, let's say you have a decentralized exchange, or you are making let's say derivatives, and the trades are very often, or it's a gaming platform, or there are like several use cases where you can reduce these number of steps with enabling meta transactions. So more on this later. And certain options can be provided in terms of like whether you want to pay ETH as a gas fee, do you want to pay in any any coin which you already have, any ERC20 token, and you are just in and so there's a motor turnaround with the platform. And apart from that, it should be encouraged to make these different developer friendly SDKs or very simplified API suites where other people can just sort of integrate your services with like a few lines of code, and their usability experience is improved. So some solutions are out there which are doing it. For example, in case of 0x, it's a very good idea where people are just like signing the messages of the orders they want to place in the order book, and sort of like exchanges this messages in decentralized way, and when the order is matched, the transaction would be on chain. So these are some like very good ideas of the solutions out there to be like inspired from. And then like you can also natively optimize the gas, because the gas prices are going high, Ethereum price is going high. And how do you reduce the number of computational steps natively in your smart contracts itself? So that would like save a lot on the fees, like despite of like you are doing some other solutions. So that is like a native optimization. So these are some ideas. Now I'm going to talk about Bionomy, and how like sort of talk about on the high level, how do you integrate it with your dApp and how you can build on top of it. So Bionomy is basically a transaction infrastructure where we have like a very robust relay infrastructure in the backend, which sort of relays your transactions, and you need to follow a very few number of steps, and that is one time to enable the gasless transactions in your dApp. And there are some other products where like users can pay gas fees in ERC20 tokens, or there can be other use cases where users can pay fees, in fiat to you later. So all of these experiences can be improved with just 3 lines of code in your dApp, or you can even use the APIs to sort of like relay the meta transactions from the like any application that you're using. So and the features would be the gasless transactions, like I talked about meta transactions, and then the another feature is like there would be no stuck transactions. You do not need to, or your users do not need to worry about how much gas fee should I set, or whether this transaction will go through or not. So there are certain services which take care of this at the back end. Apart from that, you get a certain amount of gas refunds whenever it is feasible to burn the gas tokens. We are using G token from 1inch, but it could be like any other gas token, GST2. So this would like improve the also like on the fee side, where the users are paying less fees in gas, or in terms of like overall savings. And you can sort of like watch the dApp statistics on the dashboard, how your user base is increasing, or for the solution you're providing. And another problem which I didn't talk about is blockchain agnostic. What it means is like basically you are interacting with like different layer 2 solutions, coming back to layer 1, and different dApps are on like different networks. And basically like the users need to change this RPC address all the time. And then so this even more further includes like one more step to do this configuration of the network. Then you sort of like pay the gas fee. So these transactions can like so with blockchain agnostic, if we reduce these 2 steps, so users are just like signing the messages as usual. It doesn't matter they are on any network, and the transaction would go through. So yeah, these are basically the features which I talked about, like how do you integrate in like very few number of steps. And the ideas would be like you can create a wrapper on top of any protocol to enable the meta transactions, or even if it's not gasless transactions, you are giving a choice to your users to pay in like any other token. It could be a native token for your dApp where you already have some token economics. You can give some rebates. So there are like certain amount of very interesting use cases. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about like how this is being managed at the back end. So in case of for example, gas refund. So for that, there would be like a script to mint the gas tokens when the gas prices are very low, and when the gas prices are high, these tokens are burned along with your transactions, which is being relayed by a relayer. and then it improves in like gas savings and overall gas consumed by a particular transaction. So that's a one thing. In terms of like a relayer infrastructure, you have like, you need to maintain a certain amount of ETH in your relayers, be it like, even if you're running your own relayer with GSN, and then like you need to stake these relayers. So all of these account management and the relayer stuff, it happens at the Biconomy core backend. And apart from that, there are for pending transactions or the stuck transaction, there are services which are listening constantly to check these transactions. And if you need to like resubmit or bump up the gas price, so all of these things are doing it's taken care of in the automatically. And this is like sort of the architecture for one of the approaches where basically the transaction signer or the end user will just sign this message of the transaction they want to send, and then it would come to the relayer, and relayer sort of like forwards to a certain forwarder contract whose job is to just verify the signatures by the user and also prevent the replay attacks. And then ultimately it goes to the your contract, basically dApp's recipient contract. Only change you need to do in your dApp contract is you need to enable meta transaction. And what's the way to do that is basically like if you have any message.sender property or the transaction initiation property in your any method of your smart contract, then you need to inherit a certain contract which makes your recipient contract like native to accepting meta transactions. So in that case, like you just change the message.sender property to that function value, and then you're ready to send out the meta transactions. So this is these are like some steps which are involved. Like first, you do the smart contract changes based on the approach that you want. You let's say you want to enable gasless, or you want to go for a certain approach where like the users are paying gas fees and ERC20 tokens. So based on that, you just need to inherit these contracts. So once you make this smart contract changes, then you go to the Biconomy dashboard and register your contract with the different methods that your users will be interacting with. So that would be the second step. And in dashboard, there are like other features where I'll share the resources link where you can like actually check the docs and the dashboard. So you can enable other features, like if you want to like enable the gas token burning, you can watch the stats, and this registration process is one time. Once this is done, you are ready to send out the transaction by using the doing some client side changes in your code, which would be like importing using the SDK or directly using the APIs. So these are the contracts where you sort of like inherit this contract based on the transaction approach which you're choosing. And if you notice, it just like, defines the message sender, how to, it could be a relayer or it could be an end user. So it handles a case in case of, if the transaction is forwarded with the relayer, and what is the end user address which your contract should use. So that's the whole purpose, and your contracts are ready to enable the gasless transactions. And apart from that, you just import, like I mentioned, in 3 lines of code where you import the SDK, and then like once you have registered your dApp and the smart contracts, you just provide your API key in this object, and then you just change your current provider to use the Biconomy provider, and that's it. Like then you can just send out any RPC call. So yeah, one more thing, like what happens in terms of like infrastructure, when you send out these transactions, the Biconomy provider will pick your transaction and it will intercept the RPC call, and it will it will check if your contract is registered or not, and then it will come to the method, and then your transaction happens by sending out the the signed transaction by the relayer. So that's the same step like I mentioned, and once your provider is changed, then you just like send of like use the send transaction RPC call, and your transaction would go through and it would be gasless experience. There are some other steps where, like, if you want to use the forward, which is paying for gas in ERC20 tokens, you just need to import like helper clients, which will like enable again, like you just use like two different lines of code, and it will be in any token, any supported token you want to pay for gas fees, and you can create this. So this is documented well in the docs, and I can sort of reach out to the Telegram or Discord community to us. We encourage devs to build on top of like different protocols and use Bionomy in their different use cases. There are some prizes and the hackathons, to sort of encourage building tutorials or building on top of any protocol using Bionomy. So yeah, that's like the technical intro on the high level. And these are some stats where like, the different dApps who are using Bionomy and how like it improved in their user base or how it increased the volumes of the transactions, which could be like a big metric for a particular dApp. So this was a curve on layer 1, and these are some of the stats. Then there is idle finance, which also uses layer 1, and these are like sort of numbers in terms of like how the experience is improved for the end users. Another good use case is per protocol, where it's basically like perpetual contracts on BTC, where like users can interact on layer 2, and it's a very seamless trading experience. And here are some other stats about the partners or the dApps who have been using Bionomy. This slide talks about the how you can enable gasless transactions. What are the other products which so the forward enables to pay the gas fees in ERC20 tokens, and there is also friction between like moving your funds from layer 2 to layer 1. So there is another product which you can use or leverage to build on top of. So that's called like InstaExit. And this is about like some resources where how if you want to use Bionomy, then you just go to the docs and go and register on the dashboard. There are some other links which like how it used to be like Truffle stack, and like how you can Truffle apart from like Truffle and Web3, how you can like move on to Hardhat, Ethers, Typechain stack. And there are some other resources where like if you want to like participate in a hackathon and build a product, so how quickly you can build a solution in very less amount of time. And some other references for like using different like services like Wallet Connect to enable your wallet to have like Wallet Connect functionality, where like end users can have very less number of steps, or they can have like seamless mobile interaction with the wallets that they want to use. So yeah, that's it from my side. I think I'll be ready to take questions now.
All right. Well, let's see if we've got any questions. Jonathan, do we have questions? I'm not sure that people know they can ask questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask them in the Twitch chat there. And when our speakers are done, we're happy to like ask the questions. Jonathan, any questions? I guess not.
All right.
So thank you, Chirag. We really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you around the Ether space.
Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, you got it.